Here's one we can file under the videos I should have made a long time ago category. But here we are. I've tried to make this a couple times, and for whatever reason the footage wasn't good enough, or the audio or something. But anyway, here we are. What we're looking at here is a 2014 and older Ford F-150 sunroof track. Broken. Of course it's broken, because otherwise I wouldn't be making a video on it, would I? What I'm going to do here is rebuild this track with aftermarket parts, which I'll discuss in a few minutes. This process also will apply to Expeditions that have the single glass sunroof. So I think that went up through 2017, if I'm not mistaken, before they started using the big double glass Vista roof. And the same thing for 250s and bigger. I don't think they started the double glass sunroof until 17. So whatever ones that about that vintage and older that have the single glass sunroof, this mechanism is identical. The only difference slightly is the track on the F-150 has this big crossbar bracket here, and the Expedition and two Super Duties basically don't have that. But other than that, the track's the same. So anyway, here we are. If you're watching this, you'll know that these tracks break a lot and have been for years. And from the dealer, the only option they offer is to replace the whole thing, which is expensive, obviously. I haven't priced one lately, but the last time I got one, it was about $1,400 and some change, I think, and plus labor. And that was just for the part. But what the aftermarket has is rebuild kits. And they've got all the guts. They've got everything you need. They've got new grease. They've got rivets. They've got little daubers for the grease. This kit came from the Sunroof Doctor. Now, I'm not sponsored by anybody, but I will tell you what I use when it's necessary, just to help everybody else out. I know you can get these kits from eBay and Amazon and I'm sure other places, but I'm telling you, they're not the same. Now they probably work, and I'm sure some people have probably done them, but I had a customer one time show up with a track from one of those places, and I tried to use it, and some of the parts were, let's say, substandard, and luckily I had a Sunroof Doctor kit on hand and that I substituted parts out of and was able to save the day with that. But that taught me a lesson about those cheaper kits. Sunroof Doctor's kits generally are right. Their customer service is awesome, and that's just who I recommend. That's where I got these parts from, and all my other parts like this. So anyway, without being an advertisement for anybody, that's just what I use. But no matter where you get your parts from, the rebuild process is going to be the same. So what happened? This track is broken, and what they do is these parts come apart, and it can get stuck open, it can get stuck vented, it can get stuck closed and not open. It can be, one side can be down and the other side closed, and just, you know, anything, all points in between. You can see a little crack right there, I believe, right there too. This thing's all to pieces, to be honest with you, and I can tell you why. If you see this piece with the two holes in it right there, that's the lower cable guide that's operated by the cable. Well, this piece directly under my pliers here is supposed to be part of this, and this is behind it. So this is separated from this, and it's not supposed to be. So it's completely shattered, and this sunroof did not operate. Well, it operated, just that it didn't move the glass. So again, your choice from the dealership is to buy a track and put in it. Perfectly effective. It works. It's just expensive. You can spend, you know, whatever these kits cost. You can price them up if you like. And some labor, little elbow grease, and save yourself some money if you're handy. So I am going to show you how to do this. And I will probably make a separate video, or at least I'm hoping to, on this same truck, of how to take it out and put it in as well. But we're running out of daylight, so I don't know if I'll get to that. But anyway, we're going to have one for rebuilding it. So let me pause, and I'm going to reorient this thing, and I'll tell you what we do, and then I'll do it. Actually, before I do that, right here, you're looking at basically what I need to do this job. Now, this isn't what you need to take it in and out of the truck, but to actually rebuild this track, this is pretty much, I may have forgotten something. If I do, as I go through it, I'll mention it, but you need to drill, because you have to drill out rivets in the back of this track. You don't need this thing on the drill. That was just already there. You're going to need a drill bit. I'm going to use a 3/16 drill bit because that just seems to be a good size at work. You're going to have to redo the rivets you drill out, so you're going to need a rivet gun. They supply the rivets in the kits, so you don't need those. You're going to need some cutters or some kind of pair of pliers. I find the cutters work best to take out the ends of the rivets, because you drill out the other side of this, and this piece tends to stay in there, and then you put the cutters on here and work it out. Sometimes you can drill straight through and pop them out all the way, but I've found that they tend to be necessary. Probably going to need some needle nose. I always have them handy because they're just handy. You're going to need, I don't have it present here, but you're probably going to need a hammer, and that would be to knock this tab down a little bit. A hammer and maybe a punch or a good strong screwdriver to hit that down with, and then the same thing to pop it back up, because it is a backstop for the track that stops the rearward movement. So it has to be up, but you got to get it down to get everything apart. So there's the screwdriver I would manipulate the track with. And you're going to need, no particular brand, but some solvent or brake cleaner. And what I use that for is this part in here is, you can see the grease, right? This is where the sliding part is, and this part here is where water flows into the drains. So this is the actual track part, and this is the trough. You're going to need to clean this and then re-grease it. They supply grease also, but they don't supply you any cleaner or rags or anything like that. So, you can use whatever you want to clean all the grease out of here. But I like those blue paper towels that you can buy at a parts store or, big box store. Soak them with the brake cleaner and just take the screwdriver and push them up and down the track once you've got it stripped down. Cleans it off really nice. And since I have compressed air here, I usually blow it all out and make it look pretty. You don't have to do that. But that's just a little touch I do. But anyway, let me reorient this. Okay, now we're looking at the back of the sunroof track. This is upright, so the glass would be up here. This is the top of the truck. That's the front of the truck, up there. You can see by the deflector popped up right there. That's obviously the front of the truck. Okay, so right here in the middle is where the motor goes. Only one motor on these. The shade is you just pull back and forth with your hand. So the motor mounts from the bottom, right here, and it engages with these two cables, which are essentially wound up real tightly wound up springs, like with some pretty heavy gauge metal with fabric impregnated in them to help them slide. And the motor pushes this one, one cable one way and one the other way, and that drives it back and forth. So to get these parts out, you're going to replace every one of these parts, all these parts except for the deflector, all this moving, all these guts, and you're going to reuse your cables, but you're going to replace all these parts because they're all either broken or getting ready to break. You got to break them out the back, bring them out the back. Right, obviously there's a wall here and you're not going to be able to get them out. So what you have to do is you have to remove this back piece that contains the cables, this drive assembly, I guess that's what it is. There's not really a name for it from Ford because they don't offer this part separately and only comes from a track. So you got to drill out these 3 rivets, 1, 2, 3 on each side, and you have to flip it over to do it. So now I'm going to show you the bottom. All right, so here we are. There's 1, 2, 3, the rivets again, except this is the part where where they snapped them in there. You got to drill these out. I use a 3/16 drill bit. You put it in there, and the rivet is often going to turn with you. And so when you put it in there, you kind of turn it sideways and pressure it a little bit. And usually it'll basically just behead this rivet and leave the other part in there. And once this part comes off, then I know this bottom piece will come off of here. And I just use my cutters or side cutters or needle nose or whatever to pull the other end of the rivet, the crimped end of the rivet off. So here's another view of where your motor goes. Your motor does mount from this side and screws into all 3 of these. All right, and there's the other 3 rivets. So I'm going to drill these out, and I think I'll drill one or two of them out on camera, maybe. But I want to tell you, you see this gray stuff here? This is sealer, or yeah, it's sealer, that kind of sticks this and seals this to the actual rail here. This is plastic. This is aluminum. It doesn't really need to be here. I don't know why they put it here, but I guess their machine just puts it all the way through here. But you're going to see this piece when I get it off. But it does need to be here because this is the bottom of the water trough part. And here is the drain tube where the drain tube plugs on. So water would come back here and go out this drain tube. So as it transitions over here where these pieces are joined, if there wasn't some sealer here, it would leak out, or it could leak out anyway. So you got to be mindful of this sealer. The other thing you have to be mindful, and I'll show you when I get it out, is these cables kind of dangle when they come out, because they're going to come out of this track and they're going to be dangling, you know, like long appendages out of this part. They can get that sealer on them, so you don't want to do that. So anyway, let me get set up and we'll drill out a rivet. All right, got the 3/16 bit. Let's just drill one out. This is about how it goes. Now, if you've got a better way of drilling these out that's better than what I'm doing, hey, post a comment, let me know. I'm always looking for a way to do something better. But I've done these a lot of them this way, and it's not the least messy way. But so anyway, I'm going to try to start it like this, but what usually happens is it starts spinning the rivet. Not always. Yep, not spinning. Okay, so I'll turn it a little bit sideways. All right, so it's almost off of there. It's almost drilled through. And there we go. All right, so he has lost his head. So let me wipe that off. All right. If you're working on your garage floor or anything, don't sweep these off. Keep them on some kind of a table or something, or maybe have some plastic under here because they kind of hurt if you step on them and you don't have shoes on. Okay, so there's one rivet, then you go 2, 3, and this will be ready to come off of here. I will go ahead and do them off camera, and then we'll have the next step. All right, so I drilled off all the rivets. The next step, you got to take these the back side of the rivet out, which I can tell you is they have a mind of their own sometimes, and I may have to stop and fight with these, but you're just going to have to accept the fact that they might not just pop out with ease like this one did. But what I also wanted to tell you is this little tab I mentioned earlier, we've got to knock that down because this piece here, is that on camera? Yeah, this piece here, the part of the lower guide, actually stops on this. This is a backstop. So since it stops on there, it's not going to come over it. So I got to tap it down so it'll slide back, because we're going to remember we're going to unload the track from the back. So we're just going to take the that's good enough. All right, so let me pause and get these rivets out, and we'll take this thing apart. All right, we're ready to start taking this thing apart. I'm going to zoom out a little bit here. All right, so this plastic piece is loose from the rail, and so it will come loose. Now, as I told you, here's the cable, and you can see this gray gooey stuff starting to be exposed. You don't want this cable to fall down into this stuff and collect it. Now, it happens that today is a pretty cold day, and the stuff isn't as gooey as it might be. In the summer, I can tell you that stuff is like nasty chewing gum. So I've got the other side taken apart too. I'm going to pull this thing off, but if you notice, see this cable moving? Pan it over that way. All right, that's going to pull this, all right, because this is all one piece. Now, if you'll notice right here, I'm pushing this back and forth with the cable. That's supposed to be hooked to this, like I told you. That's why it's broken. It's shattered. Now, what I also did was I took the punch. I took a punch and a hammer and knocked this tab down so this lower piece right here will jump over it. Sometimes it might catch a little bit, and you can kind of just pry it over. But this is the stopping point, and this is what stops it, and this is the back. That's all it is. That's what stops it for the farthest rearward travel. So hopefully it will come over. Yep, it came over it. Okay, now all this stuff's about to come out. Let me you can just keep going over there. Right, I got both sides loose, but I'm going to take this one side out on camera here. So as you can see, it's coming out. Plastic piece, just flip it out of the way. Here it comes. Here's the cable, and here's the lower guide. All right, now that is only what's left of the lower guide. This is broken. That's broken off. I think oh look, a part just fell out. Well, this is the rest of it. This is all supposed to be one piece down here. So this is how they break. All right, so I'll get it apart and show you the rest. All right, I flipped it over. Here is the gooey stuff. This is, if you'll notice, this is where this doesn't really even need the sealer here. This is the trough, and there's the exit, and there's the barb where the drain hose goes. So this sealer needs to be right here. It needs to be on this wall, and it needs to be on the inside wall of the track. That's pretty much it. Now you could clean all this stuff off and use your own sealer, but this stuff usually is pretty reusable. Okay, so as I told you, the cable. All right, we don't want it dipping down into this gray stuff. And the hotter it is outside, the worse. All right, here is how it hooks onto the lower guide. Here are the lower guides. I'm going to put this over here and this one out of the way. Here is the broken, shattered lower guide, and here is the rest of it. This should all be one piece as such. So as you can see, we are missing some parts. And now these things come labeled left and right, and that is left and right as the thing is right side up and you're looking at it from the back. That would be, well, drivers and passengers, what it is. So there's your new parts. Here's your old broken parts. All right, now we're going to pause, flip it back over, and I'll tell you. Now what I do with these is I'm going to sit it over top of a toolbox or something so these cables can dangle down so they're not hanging this way and dipping into the sealer. So I'll be right back with this thing flipped over. Thought I'd also mention these front rails. They do have a left and a right, as do these trough guides, these plastic things here. Your rear trough sits on these, and you get new ones of these, and you get new ones of these. All the moving parts in this track, other than the cables and the front deflector, which only flips up and down, all of it is brand new. But there is a left and a right to one of these, so just make a note of it and put them back in accordingly. Next step is clean up. So you can see where we drilled those rivets out. You can see where the, oh, that's a piece of a rivet there. You can see the sealer over here. We're going to leave this alone. The only thing we really have to clean up, or that we should clean up, is this rail part, the track, if you want to call it. This is the actual track where the mechanism slides. There's all this old grease in here, and you know, this thing's been opened. I mean, this truck's I think a 13, so this thing's 11 years old. And you know, it's been open. It's probably gotten all kind of grit and grime in there. You don't want to put your brand new parts in there and just put new grease on top of it. So I'm going to clean it out. Now, I use these blue towels, and I soak them in brake cleaner, which pretty much dissolves this. And if you can take a screwdriver and just jam it in here and get all this grease up and keep flipping it over, you'll get it nice and clean. But you clean it however you want to clean it, with whatever you want to clean it with, but just get it clean. And then we will reapply the grease that comes with the kit, which is silicone paste, which is far superior to this petroleum-based stuff that came from the factory. It's slicker. It doesn't eat parts at all because it's not petroleum-based. It's just way better. So that's actually good news. It comes with a better lube. But so let's get it cleaned up, and then I'll show it to you. Here's our nice, clean, almost like brand new track. I have cleaned that out with a paper towels and brake cleaner. I've blown it out with compressed air, just in the interest of time. I even clean out this side. There's no reason to, because it's just going to get dirty again. But you know what? It makes me feel better. So it's nice and clean. It's ready for grease. Here's the grease that comes with it. Doesn't look like much, but there's plenty. It got the little dauber, and we're just basically going to put it in here. And you don't really need to grease it back here so much, because again, this is the stop. I want just a barely little bit of grease so it can slide up in here and not be, you know, peeling plastic off of it or anything. But your grease wants to be from here forward up there at the deflector. This will kind of go up in this little slot where it rides, So I'm not going to do all of this on camera. I just want to show you. Here's the, obviously here's the grease, and you're going to put it up in there. And I also, you don't need too much on the floor of this. You mainly need it in the sides, but you do need a little bit in the floor. But you want to get these inner rails, these inner slots here. That's where the delicate stuff rides. Get it nice and greasy, and then your new parts, you're going to want to put a little bit of skim coat of grease on them so they don't go in the back of this thing dry. Because you do have to load these in the back, and I think I will. Let me see here. They got to come in back here, so you don't really need grease from about here back too much. I like to put a little bit in there because they do have to load in here, and you don't want them sliding up in here dry. So I will probably show me loading this in here just for so you'll see how to do it. Other thing is, I've got this right side up, and you remember this gray sticky adhesive or sealer is on the bottom here. I don't really want it sitting on my box. Today I'm getting away with it a little bit because it's cold and this stuff isn't very sticky, but if it was hot outside, I would not want to be. I would have this overhang like I have it now. I have it overhanging. So be right back, and we'll load this thing up. I'll have it greased. As you can see, I've used most of the grease. Saved a little bit for these. You just want to get a little bit on these feet because obviously there's plenty in the track that I've already put in there. So they're not going to be, you don't really need to load this part up too and grease both things. But I do want a little bit because it's going to go in the back of this track. And you also want some in this slot, which you could do after the fact. I just usually go ahead and do it right now. This silicone paste is really considerably superior. Now here's the lower guide. Right there, these little slots is where the cable plugs in there. I don't really want grease right there, but I do want it on these feet because that's where it slides. All right, and again, I don't need a ton on here. I'm just I don't want it to go through here and start dry and peel or anything. So here we are. We're going to put these together. This goes in just like this. It's a little tight snap, but it comes in just like it came off. You're going to want this at the end. And is this showing all the way back here? And it's going to load in here. I'm going to do it here in a minute, but I'm going to just tell you about it. And I'm also going to have that back piece because it's got to have the cable right in here because the cable goes into this back hole with this. And so it's all got to go in there. So you're probably going to need some help. It slides in there. Then this slides in here, and then you're almost there to the cable, and once it starts sliding in there, it pulls the cable with it. All right, so all right, now is the time, before I get involved putting all this stuff together, you want to make sure you have this gray stuff right here sealing this, because water is going to go across here to there, and you don't want it getting down in here and leaking back out. Now these, on the rear of these things, it doesn't see a ton of water unless you park it with the nose face uphill, but it occasionally will see some water and you want it to be sealed. What I normally do is I peel up some of this gray sealer and kind of put it around here to make sure I have a little extra, and so when the rivets clamp this together, it's going to squeeze it together. But I also go in over top and I put just a little dab of sealer on the joint itself, just for insurance. Probably don't need it, but just for insurance. All right, so I'm about to load in this front of this front rail. Now it's tight, and you got to be careful with it, and you got to basically, as they say, hold your mouth right. And it goes in there, and there it is. It's gonna want to spit and sputter and not go in there, but it will eventually go in. And you get it through there. All right, now it's going. All right, now here's other thing. We've got a tab right here. That's going to need to be under here. It's going to need to be under here. It's got to go in about as flat as you can get it, which means this piece here needs to be in the back. All right, so this is in the back. Actually, if the cable was pulling it, it would slide back here and then pull this whole mechanism backwards. That's what it does when it's working. All right, so we're going to push this in. All right, so now you can see these feet are about to enter the back of the track. So we're gonna, it's a little dicey. All right, here we go. We're gonna get this started. And there's a little tab on here you can push if you really need to, but you gotta hold it or have somebody maybe holding it. It's really good. If you've never done one of these before, it's really good to have help. It even helps me. All right, and then once you start going, you can actually push this with a screwdriver or something. But all right, you see these? This is where, again, where the cable, you see this, these line up with that. All right, you see this front end of this cable? All right, it's gonna load in this round piece on this track. It's not gonna go in there after the fact, so it has to go in as an assembly. And right now is the time where you're gonna hook it up. It's just about to go in there, and all it does is it just presses on here, and then the track itself holds this together. All right, there it's pressed on there. And we're gonna just push it up in there. And I mean, you gotta take some pressure. All right, now that's in there, look at that. All right, so now what I do is I take a screwdriver, and I'm not gonna push back here, because if I push this, it's gonna slide forward in here. Now, I just, is this in view? I'm gonna push this and just push it. You see it dragging the cable? It's dragging this. It's dragging the whole thing. All right? This is in. I'm gonna do the same thing over there. So this piece will be more or less even, so it's not just, I've got it moved around here just for this purposes of looking at this. All right? Be right back. All right, I like to load these in last just because they're kind of flimsy plastic. So I push the cable, and the lower guide and everything is all the way, not all the way up in there, but it's a good little ways. Before we attach this back part, we need to put this in. Now you could theoretically vent the thing and put this in up there. There is a way to do it, but you might as well do it while it's easy. So again, apply a little lube to these little feet. These are delicate, be careful. But they're gonna load right in here, just like the old one did. And there is a right and a left. So this is the left side, so the little arm points that way. All right, follow me on up here. All right, it comes on up here, and it goes right in there, and it'll go snap. All right, now that is completely in place. And ultimately, I'm gonna push that all the way forward. But for right now, pull it on back over here. For right now, so here we are. This has got to go. You can see the cables, you can see this. This has got to go up on here, and then we got to put the rivets on, which means we have to flip it over. The other thing you need to remember is this little tab that we knocked down. That's the backstop for this. We got to get up while it's underneath there. We got to pop that and push it back up, or yeah, up. So it'll be a backstop once again. So while I'm here, I'm going to push this. Now, if you'll notice, this cable will move in and out of here, right? Because obviously it's a moving part. So we're going to push it on up on here. I'll just push this side up here. And, all right, so, and you ease it right up on there, and don't hold it away from the bottom of the track a little bit. Ease it up on there. All right, now, when this back wall hits, you're there. So now the holes are lined up, and we can flip it over and punch those tabs back this way a little bit. They don't need to be pushed up much, just a little bit. And I'll put the 3 rivets in. So I'll come back with it flipped over. Okay, not that you need to see somebody install a rivet, but I figured I might as well. So I got my rivet gun, got the rivets. You know, it comes with a whole pack of them. Usually comes with an extra one. And you know, of course, you're going to do this. And so now your rivet's in. And the other thing I told you, don't forget, is don't forget to hammer that little tab back up, which is the backstop for the track. So there it is right there, because it's not fun to do once you get it back in the truck and you realize you didn't do it and the thing's like all out of time. So you just, that's all it needs. It doesn't even probably need that much. Okay, so now you've done that. Put the other 2 rivets in, rivets over there, and do that, and this track will be almost ready to put back in the truck. I did mention at this little joint here, so I put this sealer in here. It's not beautiful, obviously, but that is a little bit of a flowable type sealer. It's an acrylic sealer. I cleaned it up real good. That little joint, that gray sealer, generally is enough. I just put this other sealer on top of it like that. It makes me feel better. It probably wasn't going to leak anyway, and it's definitely not going to leak now. You don't have to do this, but if you do, if you're not going to have this type of sealer that I have, it's more of an industry specific deal, but get you some, I would probably say some flowable silicone. They call it windshield sealer. You can get it in pretty much any part store, and just dab a little bit in there and rub it around a little bit, and let it cure for a few minutes. It'll kind of self-level, because you don't really want it. This stuff that's what this stuff does. It self-levels. You don't really want it like a goob of sealer, because the water's going this way. One other thing I wanted to mention is, while you're working on this, these drain tube nipples or barbs or whatever, where the drain tube plugs onto it, there's two sticking off the front. These are kind of hidden a little bit. The two off the front are kind of exposed. Be careful with those, because if you break them off, you're going to need a track, because this stuff does not lend itself well to any kind of adhesive to glue them back on. And even if you could epoxy it back on, which you might could, you'd have to let it cure overnight. And then you got if you're rebuilding the one out of your truck, then you've got your truck torn all to pieces, and you got to put a tarp over it. So just be careful with these. They will break off. And, if you want to ask me how I know that, let me just say it was painful. So anyway, we're all back together. There's one thing left to do, and that's align these guides. So if you can see, the guides are more or less right about here. Here's the little tab. I have hammered that up from the bottom, and now you can catch it a little bit, and it will stop that. Same thing over here. Guides are right here, but as you can see, it goes way farther than that, right? Because the deflector's still up. So how do you align the guides? They have to be dead in alignment with each other. Left and right need to be in exactly the same spot. Now, you could shut it and then estimate where it was and measure them and all that, but I've got an easier way, and I'm about to show you. All right, here's how we do it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put this thing as far forward as it will go, the whole mechanism as far forward as it will go. It will be in the most tilted or vented position you could possibly do. How are you going to do that? You're going to put it right there, and you're going to see it. You're going to see it push the deflector down, and it hits the stop. It's there. All right. Then this is still in the retracted position, so we're going to be carefully push this, and this has to go down right here. This little roller. All right, it goes down there, and as you see it, did you see it raise the arm here? It's starting to tilt the arm. All right, so it's going to go forward some more, and it's going to see it's tilting the arm up. All right, now it's at the farthest tilted it possibly could be. Once your sunroof is operational and you put it in tilt position with the button, it won't ever go that far. The only time it'll ever go that far is when you program it. But that's where I'm going to start it off, because you could try to, somewhere right in here is closed. You could put it right there, and you could put the other side right there, and you'd pretty much be right. But if you run it as far as it can go, and there's no more travel room and all that, you know it's right. It's and you do them both, and you know they're completely dead nuts lined up with each other, and you don't have to worry about it being out of sync and then having to drop the motor later because one cable's a little bit, one side's a little bit not in sync with each other. So, and it'll program from here. The only thing is when you're putting it in the truck, you gotta just be careful about this thing sticking up, but that's not really a big deal. You have plenty of room. So anyway, I'm gonna do the other side like that, and this will be ready to go in the truck. So here we have it. It's all together. 3 rivets in. Put a little sealer in there. Same on the other side. Trough guides are in place. It's in the fully tilted position. It's greased up. It's cleaned up. Not in that order, obviously. Greased up, cleaned up. It is ready to go in the truck. I think I might have enough daylight to do a R&R video, and we'll probably try to do that. But anyway, your 2014 and down F-150 Expeditions, Super Duties, Navigators. This is how you rebuild your sunroof track. Save yourself a ton of cash. You're talking basically, I think 120-ish plus shipping for the kit, versus and some elbow grease and labor or whatever, versus however much a track costs at any given moment. Like I said earlier, last one I priced was about $1,400. and some odd dollars, plus labor to take it out and put it in. So you can save yourself a ton of money. All the parts are brand new, just like they would be in a brand new track, except for the actual track itself, which is just a piece of hardware. It's just a piece of metal. It doesn't really wear. So anyway, questions, comments, let me know. I hope this helps somebody. I know there's other videos out there on this that maybe don't yak as much as I do, but I like people to have the details. So thanks for watching. Have a great day.